In this video, I will be packaging Malwarebytes executable installation file into MSI file using WiX. The main reason for that is to deploy the software using group policy. I'm starting this video from my GitHub page, and that's because there are a few bits of information here that I will be using for this video. And I will leave the URL in the description down below. Also, in the bottom of the page, you can find more of my videos that are related to this topic. For example, here you can find videos about installing and using WiX. And also there is a video about psexec, and I will be using psexec to execute the MSI file installation under the system account, and that's only to make sure that the installation is successful no matter what user I'm using to deploy the software. And as you can see, I have two download links here, and the reason for that, if I click on the first one and then download Malwarebytes for Windows and go to my downloads folder, you can see that this package right here is a small one, and that's because this executable doesn't have all the necessary files for the installation. It will be downloading the necessary files during the installation, and that means that if we create an MSI package from this executable, then our MSI package will require internet connection during the installation. And this is bad in most cases. So instead, I will be using the link that I have here that brings us to Malwarebytes forum, and here we have a link posted by iMacri, and it seems at least from the comments that admins make in this post that the link is legit, so I will click on it and it should start another download for us. And as you can see, now we have another executable, but this one is way larger than the previous one, and that's because it has all the necessary files it needs to complete the installation. So I will be deleting the one from before. I will rename this one to remove the one and the space, and I will use it to create the MSI package. And the next thing that we need is the WiX configuration file, and for that I will go back to my GitHub page where I have few configurations. One of them is called Malwarebytes, and this is a complete configuration file that has all the necessary values. You can check it out if you want to, but for this video I will be using this one called template. I will click on it, and then I will click this button right here to download it. Then I will go back to my downloads folder, and here we have our template. I will right click it, rename it, and I will name it Malwarebytes. And then I will right click again and open it with Visual Studio Code. And as you can see, it's an XML file. Basically, it's instructions for WiX on how to package the MSI file for us. And when using this template, we mainly care about this part right here. Basically, we need to fill in the values that are unique to this Malwarebytes installation. So first we need to name our package. I will name it Malwarebytes installer. Then for exe, we need to provide the executable name. For that, I will go to my downloads folder, and here I will right click on the executable, select rename, and then I will select the full name that includes the extension. Because extension is mandatory, I will right click again and copy the name. Go back to Visual Studio Code, paste in the value, and now we need to provide the path, and it's the location where we currently have our executable, and it's in my downloads folder. So I will type D drive and then downloads, because my downloads folder is in my D drive. I'm pretty sure that the location for you is different. Then we need to provide silent arguments because we want the installation to happen silently, and for that I will go back to my GitHub page. And here I have all the necessary switches for the silent installation. So I will select it and copy it, go back to Visual Studio Code, paste in the value right here. And then for the version, this is the version for this MSI file that we are creating, and this is not the version of the software. In most cases, I like to keep the version for the MSI file the same as the software's, but for this video, I will just give it a value of 1.0.0. Then we need to provide a publisher. This is not very important, but it's a mandatory field. So I will give it a value of, let's do automation. And the last thing that we need to provide is GUID. And this is this will be a unique identifier for this package. And we can generate a GUID using PowerShell. So once again, back to my GitHub page. And here I have a PowerShell command that generates GUID for us. So I will select it, copy it, and then I will open a terminal window, or you can open the normal PowerShell window if you're not using the terminal. And then I will paste in the command, press enter, and every time I'm using this command, we are getting a new unique identifier. So I will select one of the values, go back to Visual Studio Code, paste in the value right here, and that's basically all that we need to provide to create our MSI package. And now for creating our MSI package, I will go back to my terminal. And here I want to change my directory of my terminal to the location where I have my configuration file for WiX. And like I said before, it's in my downloads folder. So I'll type cd, d, and then downloads. And enter. If I type dir, we can see our WiX configuration file and the Malwarebytes executable. Now to generate an MSI package, we need to type WiX build and then provide the configuration file name. So it's malwarebytes.wxs and press enter. And let's go back to our downloads folder and wait a second. And as you can see, the MSI file was generated for us. So now we need to test it and see if it's working. So I will right click it, copy it, go to my VMware workstation where I have a Windows virtual machine prepared. Here I have this software folder and I will paste in the file here. Also in the same folder I have the psexec executable, and this is only to execute the installation under the system account. So the next step is to open another command line, so I will go to start menu and type cmd and run as administrator and yes. Now we want to change the location in this command line to the location where we have our executables. So I will click here and copy the location. Then I will type cd, paste in the location. Also, if I type dir, we can see our MSI file and the psexec executable in our command line. Also, if I type who am I, we can see that this window right here is, this command line right here is running under the admin user. So we want to change it to the system account, and for that I will be using psexec. So I will type psexec executable name -i for interactive and -s for system user. Then we need to provide the process that we want to start. In this case, for me, it will be cmd to keep it simple, and I will press enter. I will agree with the license terms, and we have a new window. And this time, if I type who am I, we can see that this window right here is running under anti-authority system user. So everything I'm doing in this command line, I'm doing it as a system user. And once again, we want to change our directory to the location where we have our files. So I will type cd, paste in the directory. If I type dir, we can see our executables once again. Now to start the installation, I will type cmd/c. This is not necessary, but it allows us to see when the installation is fully finished just by looking at the command line. Then we need to provide our MSI file name, so it's malwarebytes.msi. And let's do the installation silently, so I will add /qn and press enter. Now let's wait for the software to install. And as you can see, our installation has finished and we have our Malwarebytes icon on our desktop. But first let's look around and see what happened. First I will go to my control panel by typing control in the command line. Then I will select uninstall a program, and here we have our installed software list. And as you can see, we have Malwarebytes installer installed. The publisher is Let's Do Automation, and here is the version number. And also we have the software itself, Malwarebytes. And we have two entries here because our MSI file, we installed the MSI file and then the MSI file installed the executable for us. And it's possible to hide this MSI entry right here, but when it comes to software installation troubleshooting, it can get quite complicated if we hide this value. So in most cases, I like to leave it. And now let's start Malwarebytes and see if it works. I'll select get started, maybe later. Get started again. And it seems to be working just fine. And that's it for this video. Like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And see you in the next one.